Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Zubair and welcome back to this tutorial on AWS. And in this lecture, I am going to talk about one of the most important services from AWS, which is called the Amazon EC2. Yeah. So we will look into this. What is Amazon EC2 service, like EC2? Just hit a question. So that would be the agenda of our video or the lecture today. Okay, now Amazon EC2 basically stands for Elastic Cloud Compute. Elastic Cloud Compute, right? E and C twice. Okay, the Amazon Elastic Cloud Compute provides scalable computing capacity in the Amazon Web Services cloud. Right? This is basically a compute service that is part of compute service that is part of the AWS infrastructure as a service. One of the components of that infrastructure as a service, and this is one of the key services for the AWS infrastructure, right? Using Amazon EC2 eliminates your need to invest in hardware upfront, so you can develop and deploy applications faster. Because if you think about the olden days, wherein you would have to deploy a server, to install a machine, to install an operating system, and then do whatever you want to do, install the application and whatever you want to develop, right? But nowadays, imagine the process, how long the process would be to basically, first of all, decide what kind of hardware you want to purchase, then the type of instance you want to purchase, then develop a POC, and then get the approvals and whatnot, right? And then finally getting the device delivered to your data center, and then you go and connect those devices to the network. Then you go and install the operating system. Then on top of that, you will install the application, and then finally you go and work on the application, right? So you can just imagine this amount of work that you need to do. Now, in these ages of the cloud, this can be done in I would say 10 to 30 seconds. So easy. And you can deploy the EC2 instance, hundreds of EC2 instance in one shot. Hundreds, right? So just imagine the capex and the opex that you are saving, right? The capital expenditure, which is the procurement of the hardware, and the opex, which is the operational cost later on to maintain these servers and cooling systems and electricity bills and patching and all those stuff, right? So you can imagine how much easy it has become to own a server without even maintaining that. You just need to pay the bill for as long as you use it, and and trust me, the billing is very flexible. We will see the billing in the billing section, but for now, just think that you have to go and pay with the model called pay as you go. So you will be charged for hourly basis for these instance type, and you can see and also calculate how much you will be charged upfront, right? You can you can just calculate the total cost of owning an EC2 instance, a particular type of EC2 instance, for a certain amount of time, and you will accordingly can go with that kind of EC2 instance. Okay, Amazon EC2 enables you to scale up or down to handle changes in requirements or spikes in popularity, reducing your need to forecast the traffic. Now, this is a very important thing. So, two things that I want to explain here. One is scale. One is scaling. Scaling means it's like based on the amount of traffic, you are going to increase or decrease the hardware and the number of instances. Okay. Now, say you are running a CPU with four cores, and say with sorry, I had to say four. This is four. So imagine this is four cores, and then I'll just write here four cores. And then you have 16 GB of RAM, and you have 100 gigs of SSD. Now you have a need to increase the instance capacity. So when you go and upgrade this to say 8 cores and say 32 GB RAM and 200 GB hard drive. It doesn't need to be the exactly the double. Just for an example, I'm taking this. This kind of scaling is called scale up. You're going vertically up, right? On the same instance, you are just increasing the size of the compute, the RAM, the storage, whatever you want. Right? And then reducing it back is called scale down. Now you don't need this much of compute power or RAM, and now you just scale down. You change the instance type back to the 180. This is scale up, scale down. Now another one is scale out and scale in, right? Out and in. So scale in and out means, so you're having this again, this CPU with 4 cores and 8 GB of RAM, say like this, and say 100 GB of hard disk. Right? So now that now what happens is the load, we are running a website on this, and the load on your website is increasing on the, because you are running a sale. So on that day you see a tremendous increase in the traffic on that server. So what you do is you scale out, means you take one more EC2 instance of the same, or maybe different. It's not mandatory, you should have the same 100 GB. Like that, you can scale out as much as you can, but obviously you will have to pay now the thrice. So this is called scale out. And scale in, you understand, right? Back from the having 3 to 1 is called scale in. Okay, so this is one of the most important things that you need to know: scale up, scale down, scale in, scale out. So hope you understood this 4 terminologies. Now let's move back to the EC2, and what I want to discuss is EC2 is one of the most important and the most popular AWS offering. And I've told you that this is the core component for, let me take the pen. This is a core component for infra as a service, as a service, right? IaaS, you might have heard that. You have SaaS, software as a service, infra as a service, right? Then you have X as a service, or PaaS, which is the platform as a service. But the EC2 is one of the core and the most important part of the infra as a service. And next, I would say about the EC2 instance is there are, these are basically like renting the virtual machines. So you have virtual machines in data centers, or at home you can just spin up a virtual machine and just use it, right? So this is something like a virtual machine, but you're renting it from the provider, which is AWS. And you can store data on virtual drive. So when you go for an this EC2 instance, you will get all the features that you get on a physical server. So for example, you will have the compute power, and you can just select whatever number of cores you need. You can have the storage. There are different kinds of storage. You have EBS, you have instant store, you have NFS, which is the network file sharing, which is called the EFS in AWS. So the storage you can have the memory, which is the RAM, the volatile memory. You can have the network interface, uh, networking, whatever you like. You can have the security firewall, which is the which is called the security group SG. Security group. You can have graphics power if you want to do video rendering and all. You can have that. Then you have the type of instance which is optimized for that, doing so. And then you can also have the IPs, static IPs, which are called the elastic IP in case of static IP, which are called as elastic IP in case of AWS. So you can have all these on the EC2 as well, EC2 instance as well. So this is something that you get on physical on-premises servers. You will get the same type of services here as well. And you do have the option of configuring the load balancers, which are called the ELBs. ELB means your elastic load balancer. And then under the umbrella of this, you also have different types. We can go through it in the other videos, but this can be, say, classic load balancer, which is like the oldest one. Classic load balancer. You have application load balancer, you have network load balancer, you have gateway load balancer, GWLB. Right? These are the types of load balancers you have. This also comes under the infra as a service. You can also have something called as the ASG, auto scaling group, which can basically define certain rules, and based on that rule, you can make your EC2 instance scale up or scale down, not scale up, sorry, scale out or scale in, right? So based on that ASG group and the rules that you define inside that ASG group, you can have the scale out and scale in done automatically without bothering to monitor the health of the instance. So for example, you can have a monitor which says if the health of the instance or the CPU usage of the instance goes above 80%, spin up a new instance. And if the instances, this CPU usage goes below 80, just delete the instances, right? So that's the power of the Amazon EC2 service that you have. The ASG is the last one that I talked about, which is the scaling service. Then knowing EC2 is fundamental to understand how the cloud works, because this is the core of any organization having the compute power, right? So this is where all your applications run, the servers. So you should know the EC2, Amazon EC2 well enough. Okay, let's talk about the EC2 sizing and configuration options that you get on the cloud. So let me just go and wipe this board clear. Now we will be talking about the pen. Now this time we'll be talking about the EC2 sizing and the configuration options that we get. Now I will try to cover this in a quick session, because this is a lot. There is a lot to cover, and I'll try to summarize this. We will go deep in this, but for now I'll try to summarize it here, right? So as I mean, at a basic level, what options you get on the EC2. All right. So first thing you get is the OS. So you have the flexibility to choose the multiple types of OS. You can go for Linux. You can go for the Windows OS, mm, and also you can go for the Mac OS. Some of them are free tier eligible, and some you would have to pay based on the license. Right? You also have bring your own license um, uh, here, so you can just bring your own license for Windows or something like that. You can do that. Now, how much compute power and cores you need? You have the power on that, right? So the compute, as I said, the compute power, you can do that. You have the power, the flexibility to choose that. The RAM, how much of memory you need on the RAM, you have the flexibility to use that. How much of storage space you need, how much storage space, right? This is also on you. Um, when we will deploy an EC2 instance, I'll show you this in the real time. You can have the EBS, as I said earlier as well, and the EFS, and also you can have the EC2 instance store. Now, what are all these? Don't bother right now. We will talk about the different types of storage later. But just imagine this is like the hard disk that you have in the laptop, right? You have the attached hard disk, and this is something like which is not network attached. Okay, this is something which is network attached, and this is something which is physically attached to your hardware or the CPU. Yeah, you have the network card. Just said the I mean, based on the network card, you will have the speed of the network speed as well. And then you have the firewall rules, which are called the security group, right? Security group. Now, just to make you aware, these SGs are stateful in nature. We will talk about this stateful and stateless when we reach back to the security group and the NACL, which is the network access control list, or the ACL, you can say. So we will discuss this at that time. What are the stateful and stateless? And also, at last not but the least, there is also a bootstrap um, option that you can do um, uh, and configure some scripts so that when the instance boots up for the first time, um, if you want to enable or some service or install some updates, you can do that, which is called as EC2 user data. We will see this as well in the demo when we will spin up the EC2 instance. We will run a script, and that script will basically install the HTTP services, and our I mean EC2 instance would be converted into a web server using that script, using that user data. You can see, right? User data. So that is the Amazon EC2 sizing and configuration. And let me delete this, and let's move on to the next topic, which is the EC2 instance type. I've spoken you multiple times about the instance types that we get, right? I want to show you all these on the AWS website itself. So let's go to the AWS website and check all of the instance types that we can get. So for this, I will actually go on here and grab the browser, and let's go to AWS instance types and just type this thing. Let's go here and look into this. Let's click on the first one, and you can see these are the ones. I get the general purpose, I get the compute optimized, I get the memory optimized when you will have more RAM. I will get the accelerated computing, which is basically the graphics if you want to do video rendering and all. Storage optimized if you need more storage. So if you want to run some DB and all, which will store some tables and all, you will need more storage optimized. Then you have instance features. and measuring instance performance. So you have all these. Basically, these are the types of EC2 instance, and these are basically these are divided into instance families. And let me clear this, and we will go into all the instance families. So if you see here, this is the map where you will basically use the M1 chips, right? You have 12 vCPUs, 32 gigs of RAM. You can see this is the M1 chip with 8 core CPUs. You can use this. This is the latest one that has been added to the instance family. We are looking into the general purpose right now, if you see. So the one that we go for mostly the T series. So you have the T3, T2 family, T4G family, M6, M6. These all M5, M5A, M5, and this all comes under the general purpose. We have the T2 micro, which is the free tier eligible. If you go here for the T2 micro, you see it has 1 CPUs and it has 1 GB of RAM. Now, if you go for T2 2x large, it has 8 vCPUs and it has 32 GB of RAM, right? So this basically use the Intel processors. Mostly the you can see the T2 Nano, Micro, Small. These all use the Intel Xeon processors, right? And this is the details for the general purpose. Then you go for the compute, which starts with the C and HPC, right? So C, these are like compute of that means you will get more of the vCPUs. So if you go down here, you will get more of the vCPUs, right? So depending on the type of usage you need, obviously you will also get you can see the network here as well. It is increasing the more you take, the more you go high, and this will obviously increase. So if you go for C5, and then you can just see how much of cores you can have here. C5D metal has around 96 vCPUs and 192 gigs of RAM and 4 into 900 GBs of NVMe non-volatile memory SSDs, right? And then this is like network bandwidth in Gbps. You get 25 Gbps, and the bandwidth is into Mbps. It is like 19,000 Mbps. And these are the types of processors that are used. The Xeon Scalable, Intel AVXT, all these types of these chips, processors are used. Then if we move on to the memory optimized, wherein you would get more of the RAM power, you can just go for the R. Memory is denoted by R. So let's say R5 we will go. And if you see in the R5 large, you have 2 vCPUs, but you have 16 gigs of RAM. And likewise, if you see go below, you can go up to 768 GBs of RAM. Now, if you go for the compute, accelerated computing, so let's say P3, and now let me just go to P3 here. I was in P2. So you're getting 1 GPU, right? Graphics processors, 4 GPUs, 8 GPUs, like that, right? So you can, I mean, depending on the type of video rendering or whatever you are doing on the graphics, you get these settings. Then you have the storage optimized, which will have basically, if you see the storage, right, that would be more 8 into 1900 GBs of SSD. So these are the instance types and instance families that I want to talk about, and you have the option to spin up any one of these. But make sure the higher you go, the higher you have to pay per hour. Okay, so I would recommend you to go to this page and read all of this in order to understand the types and the families of the instance that AWS has to offer. And yeah, that's all, and that's it for this video. I will see you in the next video, and we will do a demo of the EC2 instance where we will spin up an EC2 instance, and we will access that EC2 instance from the public, from my machine. So yeah, see you in the next video. Bye bye.